everyone, this is Nancy. Welcome to Paper Moon Tarot. I wanted to try to pass on a spread that I've come up with, and I have to warn you, I am not great at spreads. I don't practice reading a lot of spreads. If it gets over 3 or 4 cards, I'm like, I can't keep track of all the different questions like in the Celtic Cross. So I am no expert on spreads, and this is the first one I've created. And it is less predictive than one to help you sort of reflect, which I think is for me, one of the main uses of tarot, not just to divine what's going to happen in the future, but to consider what's happening now and how I feel about it, what I might change, what I might do or do differently in my life to find direction. So anyway, this I'm calling quite obviously the pandemic spread, because it occurred to me that after almost 2 years of this pandemic, I needed to reflect a little bit and try and figure out, hopefully we're moving forward from it in the next 6 months maybe. Pandemics always burn out, and according to the experts, so it will end, it will become something more like the seasonal flu. So I think we are getting there. And in terms of that, I wanted to reflect a little about what had gone on these past almost 2 years. So that's what this spread is for. And it's got 5 cards in it. And I'll show a picture of that here. The 5 cards have obviously 5 different references, different meanings. The first card on the left of the spread is what has been the most negative or difficult thing for you in the past couple of years or during the pandemic. And that's a matter of just kind of considering what have you struggled with, what really has been a challenge. And the cards may tell you something different than you think it was. The next one on the right is what has been positive. Think of some positive aspect of this whole experience and what has been something that you're coming away with. The one on the top is what have you learned about the world? What have you learned about mankind and the planet and our society and the world from the experience of this pandemic? What has it taught you about that? The middle one is what have you learned about yourself? What have you discovered in going through this experience that maybe you didn't realize before? And finally, the one on the bottom is how are you going to move forward? How do you move forward from this experience? So those are the 5 aspects, and I'm going to go through a sample spread and talk through my thoughts with you to see kind of what I mean by this spread, by each of the positions. Now, I don't read reversals, but I do tend to see both sides of the card depending on the context. So I may say this is telling me not to do this, or this is telling me to do this, or that this was or wasn't the case. So if you read reversals, you might be driven crazy by that and say, but it's upright. How can you see that? But that's the way I do it. So starting with the card on the left-hand side, which is the most negative part of this experience for you, the most challenging and difficult part. The card I drew was the High Priestess. And I guess when I think about that, the High Priestess is withholding, carries secret knowledge, doesn't share, but is wise, is knowing. And I guess if I looked at that in relation to this experience, I would say that there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusion, a lot of withholding of information at various times that has been difficult to deal with for me. That people are seeing reality in different ways, that their intuition or their feelings are saying one thing and someone else's is saying something else. So it's to me kind of relates to the divisiveness that's been happening in the world over the pandemic and other issues, but also that feeling of not knowing not only the truth of the situation, but also the future of the situation. Where is this headed? What is going to happen to our world, to our lives? So I think that that's how I'd read the High Priestess as far as a negative in this situation. The next card on the right of the spread is the positive, what you're taking away that is a plus, your optimistic point of view of what you've experienced. And I drew the Nine of Wands. And this would seemingly be a very negative card in some senses, but I think to me what it speaks of is endurance, getting almost to the end of something, feeling weary, but knowing that you have to keep going. And I suppose that all of us having gone through this and probably feeling that way, like, oh my God, how am I going to hang on? But you do. And the fact that we have hung in there and the world has kept going and science has kept going to try and learn about what's going on, I think seeing the difficulty and the stress in the most positive light is that you're getting through it, you know, and that's something to, I guess, be proud of, be glad for. The card I got for the top position, which is what have you learned about the world, is the King of Wands. And when I think about this one in relation to what I've learned about the world through this experience, part of it is probably it's important to have good leadership. And I don't know that we've had that in every instance, in every country. I mean, this is a global event. We can't just blame our mayor, of our town for this one. We have to look at the leadership globally. We have to look at how we depend on the leadership of the world and what's happened during this. Here's my cat joining in. He thinks he's the leader of the world. So what I've learned about the world is the importance of leadership and how it can help and how it can fail, and how we need to relate to it, to our leaders, to in every aspect, political and economic and so forth, science and medicine. So there's been a lot of people leading different directions in this pandemic, and they're important. They're not necessarily good or right, but I think you can tend to feel a little more isolated and just you all the time, and this has sort of raised awareness of global leadership, global responsibility. So I guess I'd say that's something I've learned about the world in this. The center card is what you've learned about yourself, and I got the Sun. I've never been great at reading the Sun. It's optimism, it's happiness, it's joy, it's all of that. And I will not say that I have been happy, optimistic, and joyful through this by any means. But I guess I could say I've learned how important it is that I be that I am able to find that inside myself, So the importance of optimism, I guess, is something I've learned about me, that I need to work on it in these difficult situations. But anyway, that's what I got for what I learned about myself. And finally, the bottom card is how you're going to move forward. how we can all move forward from this. Well, I got the Two of Pentacles, and I think that probably speaks to making good choices, keeping a balance in your life. There's my cat again. Keeping a balance between in terms of knowing what's really important in the world, and that has to do with your resources. As we come out of this and supply chains have fallen apart and the economy has been a mess and so forth, we have to be more aware of what we use and take from the world, what we spend, and how many people don't have what we have. And so keeping a balance of resources, perhaps giving more than we keep sometimes, and just keeping a mental balance to come through this and move ahead. And as I said, make wiser decisions as a world. We need to make wiser decisions about this sort of scenario. It was not well planned for. And we can only hope that people, all of us, learn from it and are better prepared for the next one, the next issue that comes up. So that is my pandemic spread. And I think it helps us reflect on what we learned, what we experienced, and how we can just sort of turn our attention to moving forward now. So I'd love it if you want to do a VR to this with your experience, or you want to comment down below about the spread, about my experience, share what you went through. That would be great. And again, apologies for my first spread. It's probably very inept, but I felt like it was one that was timely. So thanks for joining me, and everybody take care out there, and be good, be well. Bye.